being negative, being a gossip, telling it like it is, or having a sarcasm-based humour, you may think does no harm. In fact, it may be what you've based your whole personality around, and found that people like you for it. After all, being direct is the only way to cut through the noise. And you're only saying what other people are thinking, but are too afraid to say. And how often have you heard it said that nice guys finish last? Being nice or good is boring. In fact, the term do-gooder is considered to be a negative thing. No. If being painfully honest and telling it like it is being controversial or negative, then that's the way to go. You might break a few eggs along the way, might upset some overly sensitive people, but it works for comedians, gets attention, it makes you visible and funny. But do people really love you for it? Or have you just attracted like-minded people into your life who feed off gossip and negativity, and now they're feeding off you? This personality description almost sounds cartoonish, entertaining to watch in movies, but a nightmare if you had to live with someone like this. In reality, a negative persona is usually much more subtle and undermining both to you and others. Like a lead filling that releases toxins into your system in micro doses and warps you over time into a person you really don't want to be. And therein lies the rub. With a negative outlook, you are the one that suffers most. The exhaustion of constant negative thoughts and regrets when you express them to others before you can stop yourself. Understanding what drives people on both ends of this positivity spectrum can be quite enlightening. And in this episode of the Social Skills Doctor podcast, the 5 stages to a positively inspiring new persona, we'll explore the key differences between positive and negative people. Those who either light up a room or cast a shadow. And we'll go through the 5 stages for going from a negative-based persona to a positive, life-affirming personality. The characteristics of negativity or positivity go beyond mere mood. They shape how we experience the world and interact with those around us. Imagine stepping into a room filled with warmth and energy. That's the magic created by positive people. So what makes them tick? I didn't know whether to share the following joke/parable before starting this episode, but I will, because it very effectively illustrates the extremes of an exaggerated positive and negative mindset. It's a heaven and hell joke about a lawyer that dies and meets St. Peter at the gates of heaven. He tells her that because she has done exactly equal good and bad in her life, he will let her choose whether to spend eternity in heaven or hell. Okay, she agreed. So how does this work? Simple. I'll give you a glimpse of your favourite hobby in both heaven and hell. Then you can choose. So what will it be? St. Peter asks. Well, I do love cooking. So off they go to the elevator and start descending to hell, as you do. First, soon enough, delicious food smells begin to fill the elevator as it comes to a stop and opens onto a large dining hall with long wooden tables. And along the centre of these tables are bowls of soup. And at the tables, the people sat facing each other. Back in the elevator and on the way up to heaven, St. Peter asks, "Did you notice anything unusual?" "Yes," she said. All the people in the room were very silent. They seemed to glare at each other with deep mistrust. "Oh, and they were so emaciated." "Yes, they were," said St. Peter. "Did you notice anything else?" "Yes, I noticed something very strange about the cutlery." The spoons had very long handles, which the people couldn't possibly get to their mouths. Exactly right, said St. Peter, as the elevator again began to fill up with more delicious food smells. The door pinged open, and she looked eagerly in to see how heaven would be different. But to her surprise, everything seemed to be exactly the same. The long wooden tables, the bowls of soup in the centre, and there again with those spoons with such long handles. There was one thing different about this place, though. The people were happy and laughing together. I don't get it, said the lawyer. Both are exactly the same, food and everything, even down to those long-handled spoons. Yet the atmosphere was completely different. What am I missing? The only difference, said St. Peter, is that in heaven the people have learned to feed each other. This joke is, of course, not intended to suggest that if you have a negative mindset, you're selfish or self-centered. But what it does do is illustrate beautifully a mind made defensive and untrusting of those around it. Gelatophobia is a fear of laughter, or more accurately, a fear that laughter is about that person. I've experienced that in my younger years. Negativity and all its different manifestations is without much doubt a form of self-harm, and I'm keen to get to the 5 stages of a positively inspiring new persona now, because the claustrophobia of remembering what it felt like is oppressive. The feeling of always wanting to self-isolate, but being desperate for company at the same time. The memory of an early girlfriend commenting that I always seemed to be mad at her. I wasn't, of course. I'm always mad at myself for my inadequacies. But it illustrates how a negative, distrusting mindset can impact those around you. I've always been attracted to people that inspire, make you feel a bit bigger by your mere association with them. The person that merely exudes confidence and being self-assured is inspiring. Someone who will listen to you instead of just waiting their turn to talk is inspiring, and it's attractive. In 2019, Boris Johnson was elected Conservative Prime Minister of the UK after a series of poor predecessors had led to Brexit and tanked the Conservative Party reputation. How did he do this when momentum and opinion polls were swinging towards the Labour Party? The difference for me was in the optimism and possibilities that the two leaders inspired. Britain's decline was already picking up speed, but Boris laid out a vision that inspired and gave people hope in a better future where Britain could once again be proud of itself and prosper. On the flip side, negative people can bring about a different vibe. Often their outlook stems from ingrained habits and perceptions rather than conscious choice. And while Boris Johnson's key strengths were the power of positivity and to inspire, Jeremy Corbyn, the opposition Labour leader, was seen as old school and inextricably associated with trade unions who could cripple the economy with massive strikes at any time and bring the feel-bad factor. He also laid out a vision for the country that included massive spending, but coming from him, it just felt like he would bankrupt the country instead of lift it up. Think about someone who always anticipates the worst-case scenario. That's a classic pessimist. And for these people, doubting outcomes becomes second nature. Negative expectations settle in their minds, casting shadows over even the brightest situation. And it's not merely about having a bad day. It's about allowing negativity to take root as a habitual mindset. When such pessimism clouds perspective, it leads to missed chances and creates drag to those nearest them. Training your mind to instinctively exude positive thought patterns instead. Bring the feel-good factor to yourself. Inspire and build others up in your slipstream. after maybe a lifetime of negative forces have had free rein to shape your beliefs and personality, will take time and determination, and most of all, your desire to see them through, beginning now. Stage 1, the reboot stage and changing your environment. We'll kick off these 5 stages with a difficult one, or at least one that will take time. If you wake up in the morning and your heart sinks as the reality of your waking life floods back in, you rent the place you live, it's run down, things don't work, you can't afford better. It's a dismal, drizzly, overcast, cold day, but you have to force yourself to get up early and pass more off-licenses, betting shops, and fast food joints than any other kind of shop on your way to a low-paying, unsatisfying job where you feel invisible and different. If you have a friend in this dystopian reality, they're probably losers who need someone to drink with, smoke a joint with, and complain about their life to, while your co-workers only know how to badmouth the company and the boss and gossip about others. Remember, you're the equal of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Deep down, you know you're not meant for this life. You're so much bigger and better than this. But you don't exactly know what that feeling looks like or how to release it. So instead, you go to a bar after work, have some drinks to numb your brain from reality, then go home to bed, where you wake up again, but now in the early hours, because the alcohol messes with your sleep pattern. And reality once again slides in. It's almost impossible to break a habit or an addiction when you're surrounded by and weighed down by reminders and triggers of what you want to escape from. And it's also very easy for anybody to say, leave your job, move to a new place, make new friends. But even if you're able to do this, if your mindset hasn't also changed, then you'll just end up recreating your old life in the new place. You need 3 things to escape this cycle. 1, inspiration. When you're stuck in the kind of depressing cycle I've just described, and you don't know how to break out of it, the only thing that will disrupt the pattern is something that captures your imagination and speaks to something deeper inside you. For me, it was the discovery of a memory techniques program that changed everything for me and set me on a new path. I was actively looking for my inspiration, and you must be too. 2, determination. The bottomless pit of it to keep you going once you've found your new path that will lead to the new horizons. 3, belief. Once the kind of life you want starts coming into focus, if you lack the belief that you deserve it or that it's only for other people, then sadly, that's the way it will be. Stage 2, the reframe stage. Changing your mindset and focus. Positive people have a remarkable knack for practicing gratitude. This focus enables them to shift their mindset from scarcity to abundance. Instead of dwelling on what they lack, they appreciate what they have. Gratitude isn't just a fleeting feeling for them, it's a daily ritual, whether it be through journaling or simply acknowledging the little moments of joy. Gratitude acts as their anchor, grounding them in positivity. One of those revelatory mindshift moments came to me one day in a property development seminar when the speaker asked, what thoughts instinctively occur to you when you see a rich person? Someone living in a mansion, someone who drives around in a luxury sports car. Are you jealous? Do you despise them? Do you think they're compensating for something? being show-offs, that they had unfair advantages. They cheated and trampled on others to get where they've got. Their money is dirty and they're probably tax dodging. Then the speaker asks, if those are the thoughts you have about those who are or already have what you want, how can you ever convince your mind that you deserve wealth and the good things in life when you're asking it to become something you despise? By the same principle, if you think positive people are faking it, they're do-gooders, they want something in return, they're only being positive because they have X, Y, or Z, then how can you become more like a person you so mistrust or look down on? Whether you want health, wealth, happiness, to be a positive person, people are attracted to. First, celebrate those qualities when you see them in others. And yes, that means when someone drives past in a Lambo with a big grin on their face, mentally congratulate them on their success and leave it there. Stage 3, the frequency stage. Changing your internal dialogue. This one will be less like steering your Lambo around a bend and more like steering a cruise liner at sea. It'll be a gradual change because internal dialogue comes from programmed responses that live in your subconscious, and because of that, you'll be using those negative responses without realizing you're doing it. And it's hard to stop doing something you're not aware that you're doing until it's too late, of course. This includes thinking mean thoughts about others as well as putting yourself down. It can be exhausting to have a constant stream of negativity passing through your mind, and when something happens, like a moment of road rage or someone unfairly taking their own frustrations out on you, triggering an emotional hijacking which floods your mind with negative thought. And when this happens, remind yourself of what's actually happening here. Someone's trying to unload their stress onto you. It's a selfish act, but it is also all too human. To counter it, become rubber and let it bounce back at them. How do you do this? Here's an example. An aspect of driving that's always given me stress, until recently, is when your lane has to merge into another lane, and the cars in that other lane act like you're queue jumping, so try to block you from merging. When this happened again very recently to me, and the inside driver, with much determination and righteous fury, forced his car inside of mine and closed the gap on the car ahead to ensure that I couldn't merge ahead of him, I suddenly burst out laughing at his childlike actions, and I thought to myself, what an inadequate life he must have to become so enraged about defending that small space in front of him. I knew he could probably see me laughing in his rear-view mirror, so instead of him feeling like he'd won some kind of battle and unloaded his frustration onto me, he came right back to him and probably doubled his frustration. Equally, if someone is unfairly chewing you out and venting their anger on you, instead of raising to their anger frequency and allowing their stress to transfer to you, stay on a calmer, more chilled out frequency where the stress cannot transfer and they will not get the release they seek at your expense. Now, how about the stress you give yourself? Have you ever caught yourself telling yourself that you're stupid, an idiot, etc.? If this is happening, then find a substitute word to use instead, and soon enough, you'll get into the habit of using it. I now often hear my own wife telling herself how pretty she is. Of course it's true. Stage 4, the rapport stage, changing your energy profile. How does your energy compare to those around you? Or if you work in a low energy, negative environment, how does your energy compare to groups of strangers in a pub, in a cafe, etc.? Is there an engaged energy and spirit of people catching up, exchanging stories of the week's events, talking animatedly about their news, gossip, plans, goals, dreams, passion, etc.? And how does your baseline energy compare? Is it muted, your posture hunched, your eyes down, your voice lacking tone, your face missing a smile? Is your energy likely to raise up, blend in with, or bring the group down? Dramatically uplifting your energy with those who know you will raise eyebrows and give an instant vague vibe, and they will be right to think that. Or they may just think that you've won the lottery and want a slice of the pie. Either way, you're coming in hot and you won't be able to sustain it. So instead, aim for a simple 10% uplift in your energy instead. And when that becomes your baseline, add another 10%. That's it. That's all it takes. Let a slow smile spread across your face. When you see someone that you know, transmit to them that you're happy to see them, instead of pretending you didn't see them and looking away. Smile a genuine smile. Laugh a genuine laugh when others do, instead of being cool. This builds rapport and brings you into the ambient. Be 10% more engaged, and when you speak, do so with 10% more excitement, animation and tone. Stage 5, the transfer stage, and positively charging others. This is all about the words you speak and the energy they transfer to others. Like bad reviews and lies that can travel the world before the truth gets its shoes on, it's easier to spread low-level negative vibe through complaining and gossip, which actually makes up about 80% of most people's conversation. Therefore, if you consciously start transmitting positive energy, it will be noticed more by others and will ignite a feel-good factor, which they will then associate with you. Here's 2 ways of doing it. First, with an acknowledgement. When was the last time someone asked follow-up questions after you just shared an anecdote instead of launching into their own? When was the last time you truly felt heard? When it happens, you notice, because it's not the 80% of standard conversation, but maybe at a stretch, the 8%. It's not the norm to be explicitly acknowledged and validated. So start with an agreement. When you agree with someone, instead of breezing on past them, nod and tell them so. This is a secret weapon of my daughter. When I say something she agrees with, she literally tells me so by saying, "I agree with you, Daddy." And the fact I can recall those simple words to mention here is proof in itself that an acknowledgement can be memorable and create a positive feeling in another person. Second, give a positive reputation. This is a very simple and powerful thing to do. It's the same as giving a compliment, but with legs. You see, a normal compliment lives and dies in the moment. You tell someone they look good, they accept it, if they believe it, and then you both move on. The reputation compliment, however, lives and continues to grow over time, if it's done right. The ingredients for a reputation compliment are simply that it has to be about 0.75% true. Then the person will try and live up to the rest. For example, I used to do driving assessments for a company with a national fleet of drivers, and their average age was between 40 and 50 years old. They were seasoned drivers with a bulletproof attitude and often drove with a deliberate lack of due care to show me just how much or little they cared about my presence and my reports. One went so far as to tailgate a milk float through London. So it was very refreshing to have a younger driver who actually wanted to impress me one day. He was nervous, but he was clearly a good driver, and that meant a lot to him. I told him he displayed natural driving talent, and I suggested he take it to the next level and go for advanced driving lessons. I could almost see him growing in stature as he took this in, and I knew, without a doubt, he would go on to live up to that reputation. You can positively influence people with it. I've been given reputation compliments just a few times in my life, and I can recall them and the people who gave them to me, even when I can't recall any other events or moments, months either side of that compliment, or, for that matter, the other people that were around at the time. I will leave you with this final thought then, from the mind of Lao Tzu, which I first heard in Margaret Thatcher, aka the Iron Lady's inaugural speech. Watch your thought, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your action. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character. And watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. Take care, and until next time, keep self-developing and spread the word about this podcast. I'll be in your debt. Thank you.